You're tuned into the Spot Up Pod, the official podcast of the Spot Up Shot newsletter. I'm your host, Paul Garcia. The San Antonio Spurs will be getting additional help in the front court with the addition of Kelly Olynyk. Let's dive in. So this is an emergency video. I wanted to record this right after the news came out. I did write an article over on the spotupshot.com if you'd like to check that out. But of the news that Kelly Olynyk will be joining the San Antonio Spurs. So let's just get right into it. So on Tuesday evening, Shams Charania of ESPN reported that the Spurs and Washington Wizards have agreed to send to where the Spurs are going to acquire Kelly Olynyk in return for Malachi Branham, Blake Wesley, and a future 2026 second-round pick. So this deal works salary-wise because when you combine Wesley's deal, which is $4.7 million, and Branham's deal, which is $5 million, together, that gets just enough in the trade requirements for Olynyk's deal, where he's going to earn $13.4 million this season. And then also Olynyk will be an unrestricted free agent next summer. So let's first begin by talking about the state of the roster where the Spurs stand once this deal becomes complete. So once they get Olynyk, the Spurs are going to have 12 players on standard NBA contracts. This means that they're going to have 3 open roster spots left from now until opening night. Now, so I had to make sure I went back and looked at the CBA just to make sure, but there is a penalty if you start the season and you don't at least have 14 players on your roster. So we do know that there's some sort of penalties. Again, read the CBA if you'd like to check it out. But we do know, though, for sure that the Spurs are definitely going to sign or at least trade for 2 more players from now until opening night in mid-October because, like I said, there can be some penalties for your roster if you don't at least have 14 players. So, again, I think at most they're going to still add 2 more players, the Spurs, this offseason. Now, what resources do they have to add players? They still have $3.1 million of the non-tax MLE after they signed Luke Cornett with $11 million of that exception, but there's still, again, $3 million left where you can either sign a player or acquire a player via trade. There's still the entire $5.1 million biannual exception where that exception can also be used to sign a player or acquire a player in trade. I do want to note you cannot combine those 2 exceptions. So you can't, get a player for $8 million by adding those 2 up. That does not work. That's not how it works. You can only use those 2 exceptions separately. Plus, of course, the Spurs still have the veteran minimum out there that they can sign players to veteran minimum contracts. So some players still out there. I still think that they need some more shooting. I know Olynyk's going to help with shooting, as I'm about to talk about here in a little bit, but I still think they need some more wing shooting, the Spurs. So some players still out there I think still fit the team. Some for maybe these contract ranges are players like Garrison Matthews, shooter from the Atlanta Hawks, and Amir Coffey played at the wing with the Los Angeles Clippers over the last few years. So those 2 players are still out there. And if not, they might round out the roster. Maybe it's with the former big man like they had Bismack Biyombo or Charles Bassey. We'll see. I think they got the front court set now that they got Olynyk, Luke Cornett, and Wemby and Jeremy Sohan on this team. So again, I think they need some more shooters and maybe one extra guard in the event there's some sort of injury down the road during the season. So with Olynyk, who he is as a player, so he's toward the getting toward the end here of his career. Not totally. He's 34 years old, 6'11" big man. He's able to get out there on the floor still just because of what he brings, which is more so his skill set on the offensive end with his shooting, spacing ability, his passing ability. So he's comfortable playing either power forward or center. I went back and looked at Cleaning the Glasses data, and they showed that with New Orleans he played more as a power forward, but then with who was it, Utah or Washington? I think it was Utah. Yeah, with another team he played more at the center position. So again, he's very comfortable playing power forward or center. Again, he's more known for his offense, providing spacing, providing shooting, passing. He's able to play in different lineups, also crashing the offensive glass. So again, the Spurs can slot him in any different lineups to have him work out there alongside Wemby, Jeremy Sohan, Luke Cornett out there on the floor. Defensively, when I look at his advanced metrics, he really sticks out in deflections, but and he mainly guarded centers and power forwards, but he did spend a little bit of time guarding small forwards and shooting guards last season. In most of his defensive metrics, he's kind of slightly above league average for his position, but again, he's not really known for his play on the defensive end of the floor. If he's going to be on the floor and the Spurs need him, it's going to be more so for an issue that's going on the offensive end, maybe where they don't have enough shooting out there, enough spacing, and so that's where they're going to bring Cornett in, is more so for the offensive need out on the floor. So what does his role look like? I still think that the starters are still going to be what I've thought going into this next season, which is a starting lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and Victor Wembanyama. The bench, I still see the 5-man unit of Dylan Harper, Julian Champagnie, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, and Luke Cornett. So now is when Olynyk's role is more so what I would say more like a depth option to bring in as a versatile option for spacing, for shooting when that's needed in the front court for the Spurs. So again, whether he comes in and he plays power forward alongside Victor, or maybe he comes in and he's the center next to Jeremy Sohan, or Luke Kornet's on the floor and they need more shooting, more spacing, so they bring in Olynyk at power forward next to Kornet. Again, I think he fits in easily, seamlessly along all these different players and different roles. So again, I think it's going to be more so matchup dependent. Is there a team where they're really just really suffocating the Spurs inside by backing off a lot of the players at different times and really shrinking the inside of the floor? And in those situations, then Mitch Johnson, the head coach, can right away call Kelly Olynyk to go into the game, and he can be out there, provide some spacing, keep the ball moving on offense with his really good passing ability as well. So again, I think that's when you're going to see him on the floor, is when the Spurs are in a situation where they really need a lot of shooting or spacing there at the front court position. Now, I just want to comment on the two players who are going to be moving in this trade, which are Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley. So again, it really hasn't worked out for either player so far through their careers with the Spurs. For Branham especially, I mean, he never really cracked the rotation at all during his tenure in San Antonio. Wesley kind of got in there whenever some guards were injured. Like last season, we saw him play a lot from like March to the end of the year, just because De'Aaron Fox was out due to injury. But again, coming into the season, I didn't have either player in the 10-man rotation, so they were going to probably just sit on the bench most likely this coming season. So now this kind of works for both players, Branham and Wesley, because now they're going to a team where there's going to be a lot of minutes most likely, which is the Washington Wizards, again, a rebuilding team out east. So they're going to get their chance. The Wizards are going to want to see what can they do, because if they really like what they can do, well, then they're both going to be restricted free agents next summer. So if Washington likes what Branham or Wesley does this coming season, well, then Washington has a chance to re-sign those players, because they can become restricted free agents next summer. So again, this is just a quick emergency video. I wanted to get my quick thoughts out on the Spurs agreeing to acquire Kelly Olynyk. I'll have more on the Spot Pod on a new episode coming up this week. Thanks. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Spot Pod. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a rating on your favorite podcast apps and our YouTube channel. The Spot Pod is recorded and produced by Paul Garcia. The music for this episode was written by Vincent Garcia and Paul Garcia. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.